Welcome to the Angels, Magic and Joy podcast. This podcast is for those who seek answers from above, guidance and magical inspiration.
Immerse yourself in the realms of magic, angels, fairies, unicorns, dragons, and so much more. I'm Kirsty Jandrell, and I'm delighted to be here with you today.
And I am Rajba. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Angels, Magic and Joy podcast. Today, very special one with our special guest, a Kundalini Activation Facilitator, Language Activator and Mentor, and so much more, of course, Naomi Stella Rose. Welcome, Naomi.
Thank you. So happy to be here with you both.
Thank you so much for joining us. And today we're going to weave different themes, different topics, and I'm sure there's many goodies that will be coming through and through Naomi. So thank you so much for joining us today. And in the energy of spring and in the energy of everything that is happening, and also weaving the themes of Kundalini activations and light language, Naomi, when I look at you, I see spring, and as we spoke, it's a theme that was coming through very strongly for today. And you know, the spring not only symbolizing rebirth, but also shedding of the old, and diving in and tuning in to your journey and your experience. Looking back, would you share the most profound winter or dark night of the soul that you've endured before stepping into the light, or looking at the dark night of the soul? Is there anything you would like to share about your journey, about your timeline regarding that?
Wow. So yeah, it's an amazing question. And for me, I've had so many dark nights of the soul, multiple initiations, and it feels like this is my path, and maybe it resonates with you. We have a deep winter, and it can be quite dramatic and challenging, and then after this it's like quite a big high, and for me this has been my pattern of a lot of peaks and valleys. So it's really hard to just pick one dark night of the soul, or like even find which was the worst one, because they've all actually been very beautiful when I integrated the lessons, and also looking back at myself, that version of me with so much compassion that I experienced that and had the strength and courage to alchemize it. So I guess the easiest way is, I can't think of like the worst one, but I could talk about the one that's the most recent one. Because I also find it hard to remember details. I think this is a common thing on the ascension path when we're shifting timelines and, dancing between dimensions. We can forget things unless we're writing them down, or specifically going back to a time point in like a meditation or a healing or an activation. So definitely the most recent one was pretty dark. And it was this winter, so it was quite recent, and it's to do with, for me, they've often been to do with heartbreak and a separation, grief. These have been the patterns that I've needed to experience. So it's often been with a soulmate, a soul friend, I prefer to call it. But it's usually been a man. And it's often been very, the lessons have been about love. How much can I love, and the courage to love, and what happens in the human experience, because it's two people in connection. So yeah, this would be the most recent one, and the lesson for me was to how much can I love, unconditional love, and while their lesson was about more of the shadow, how jealous can they make me? And because I don't really experience this emotion of jealousy as like other women maybe do. I kind of untangled myself from this program when I was very young, very intentionally, like from the grid, the jealousy grid, which is just scarcity and fear. So the way in this dark night of the soul, this winter, the way I experienced the emotion of jealousy was really feeling the other person's jealousy. So experiencing their jealousy because we were in love. So we had that connection. I can feel what they are feeling. So it wasn't my jealousy. I was experiencing theirs, and it was just as uncomfortable. So yeah, I would say that's the most recent one. It was pretty intense. But I received the lessons that I needed, and it was a divine blessing and intervention. So yeah.
I love that you mentioned, I will let you, Kirsty, no, but I love that you mentioned, because very often we will be going through those things. And I think it's a lovely message that you're sending through, that very often we're going through those things, right? The changes in our lives, the, heartbreaks, those experiences with others, especially with, I love that you said soul friends. And we would often forget that it is another initiation, that is just another lesson, it's just another challenge to activate us further. So I really love that message. Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much. And it's so beautiful the way that you also brought up the idea of, well, the concept of being able to distinguish other people's emotions as well, and being able to distance yourself from that, because sometimes when we're empathic, that can be a difficult thing to unravel. So I love the fact that you'd already done that work to be able to. So thank you. There's so much in that beautiful response. Yet moving on, thinking about Kundalini awakenings, Naomi, specifically, and you're an absolute expert in this. And of course, they are mostly very transformative, deeply transformative. Can you remember or describe a moment in your journey when you felt the power of the Kundalini energy rising, and how it perhaps shifted your outlook, your appreciation, your the way you experienced your reality, your life?
Thank you for this.
I know that's a huge question.
Firstly, I wouldn't consider myself an expert. I think in all of these, when we're working with energy, we have to be a little bit humble with it. We're always learning, and we do have to have a lot of trust. So I wouldn't say I'm an expert, but I'm definitely an experienced space holder, and been holding large spaces online and in person with people from many different places, globally, men and women. So I just wanted to state that, I really think it's an important spiritual practice, that we're always learning, and that we learn more when we're super, I'm just in the beginner's mind, can receive more, I feel. So yeah, Kundalini awakenings and activations, they are very transformative, and they're so individual. Each experience is different, and there are many ways we can experience a Kundalini activation awakening, and also different paths. So I'm going to talk about the feminine practice of receiving Kundalini activations from a facilitator, either one-to-one or in a group session. This is also known as a Kundalini activation process. where we're not actually specifically doing any active practices to awaken the Kundalini energy. We're holding the space and the frequency for that to unfold if it is for the highest potential. So it's a surrendering practice. We're surrendering to ourselves, our higher self decides. We're surrendering to our body. So we have to feel safe in the body, and we're surrendering in some way. Where a better word is trust. We have to trust the facilitator, the beautiful person who is channeling the divine energy. So, and we also, I feel, have to trust the space that we're in. So that's why I love online sessions, because we're usually at home, and we all feel usually quite safest in our home, you know. Whether it's a more inner dance experience, going inwards, visual experience, if it's a more dynamic experience, because this is a dynamic meditation. This is another way to see it. Because the energy can be strong, and we can receive quite a lot, and it can shift a lot of blocks and cause a lot of transformation, and that can, for example, a lot of body movements, spontaneous dancing, and also light language, like spontaneous light language, expressed through words, chanting, singing, hand mudras. Or it can be nothing. It can be a complete stillness, and you're just in the void, birthing creation, and that's perfect as well. And some people don't experience any of that and just are in their mind, time and money. This was rubbish. I hate this song. I've got an itchy foot. And that's okay too. So it's really like the session itself, there's so many different experiences, and I would say they're all transformational, whether it's, you know, the first one, last one. But for a Kundalini awakening, I've had many of these myself. And if we're just talking about this one path, which is receiving a Kundalini activation session, yeah, for me, it's going on these journeys deep within to my soul. So really getting to know my soul and higher aspects of my multidimensional self. And this can come in the form of visions and memories of places I've been to, people I've met. I often connect with the higher realms, not just the angelic realms like you too, because this is what we have in common, the angels, the archangels and archaea. But also the galactic light beings from different star systems and my own galactic lineage. So when I give sessions, a lot of people see star beings and you know, aliens, and are visiting off planet where they've been. And it's really common in my sessions when I give and when I receive to be downloading a lot of light language and light codes, different dialects. So for a lot of people, that is very transformational. These are all kind of my everyday life experiences. So this question is like quite hard for me. What is transformational? Like for me, I do this every day, and it's normal to be speaking, you know, 10 different light language dialects, talking to angels, and having very orgasmic experiences as well. This is like my most normal soul expression when I give and receive a Kundalini activation session is a lot of cosmic orgasmic energy, and energy orgasms. So, which is very transformational for me. So I would say that's the answer to the question. What about, I'm curious if you have both experienced Kundalini activations? I know you haven't been to my sessions, but have you been to anyone else's?
Kirsty?
Well, I'm a Kundalini yoga teacher, and I'm not sort of sort them out, as it were. But I remember the first time, and it was probably a year into my practice. So yeah, but nearly 20 years ago now. And I just remember I was awake probably for about 2 days solid without needing to sleep. And I was just absolutely in this state of hyper awareness. And yeah, and afterwards, you know, my practice deepened, and I then sort of started to very purposefully follow a spiritual path. So for me, it was initially it was a physical thing. I mean, I remember feeling the energy in my body just lifting, but it was this hyper alertness for, you know, about 2 days, and I was just devouring spiritual information and sitting in meditation, and and also trying to sort of go around about my day-to-day duties, and, you know, eating, and, you know, looking after the cat and all of that. But it was very much a remembrance of almost a connection to my higher self, and that sort of calling to then really deepen consciously into my spiritual path, as opposed to, you know, treating my spiritual practice as something that's quite separate from my everyday life, which I'd done for like 10-15 years prior to that. There was almost an integration, and that feeling of actually, you know, this has to be a part of my everyday life, otherwise I'm denying that aspect. So yes, it was it was deeply transformational. But yeah, as you say it, things are, I constantly, and I'm sure Kate, I'm interested to hear what you're saying. It's consistently almost like different stages, as you say, they're happening all the time. I think once you step into your calling, and that of course can, the way that manifests can change. The awakenings come regularly, and they're, for me, they're less dramatic than the first one, but I'm open to I'm actually really keen to come and have a session with you now, because I'd really like to consciously deepen into that. But that's been my experience. Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing, because it's so fascinating, because I also teach Kundalini yoga, and it's more of the masculine part of, you know, raising the energy through up the vertical axis through practices, breath and mantra, and I've done both, and I do both, and they're both amazing. But I actually know a lot of UK, because you're based in the UK, aren't you? Yeah, because I know many UK facilitators offering Kundalini activation sessions, and I'm actually coming to the UK twice this year. I'm holding a day treat with a sister in Aberdeen, and then I'm holding a really big Kundalini activation event in Glastonbury, September the 13th. So I definitely think you should come to.
I know.
And I know many facilitators. They're all they're UK based, the ones that I'm co-creating with in the UK this year. So there are lots of amazing people offering this, and it is it's one of my favorite things to do, not just to actually hold space, but to receive. And right now, like I said, I've just been through like a bit of a dark night of the soul, and it was because of this heartbreak. And Kate actually knows the person that I'm talking about. But it led to something very beautiful, which was that another beautiful man, a brother, started offering me daily Kundalini activation sessions. So I received and he gave, and I noticed this huge transformation in my heart, like so much peace. It accelerated the alignment and the harmonization. So then he carried on doing it, but for a group. So I've been in this. This is day 47 of receiving Kundalini activation in a row. Sometimes I'm giving too, because I'm working. but it's very, it's been profound. So I'm definitely going through a Kundalini awakening right now, and the experience is profound peace, and maybe you can feel it. There's so much peace in my heart, and even when I get a bit triggered, because we're humans, and I still have this heartbreak. It's quite recent, you know, in the last 2 months, but it's like a sense of gratitude and peace and acceptance. And I think this is one of the gifts of Kundalini activation session, which it's the feminine part of receiving. So I just wanted to share this.
That's gorgeous. I'm definitely receiving that frequency of peace. Really, it's beautiful. So, we'll definitely put those details in the show notes, Naomi, and I will definitely come and see you in September. That sounds
And
gorgeous.
you don't need to wait till September, because I offer online sessions every week and twice a month. So I will send you all the details, and I hope you'll find one that works for you. It's a very powerful experience, especially when we combine it with light language consciously. So yeah.
And speaking of light language, because this is something that this is definitely what really strongly drove me to you, Naomi. You know, light language is, I was thinking of it last night, saying it's not in the mainstream yet. I wonder if it ever will be, I suppose, but it's still quite new out there. I find it's still, you know, very often I'll be doing it and people are just, you know, they don't know what's going on. They're like, you know, they're not familiar with that, and but they're curious about it, yet not fully understanding what is happening. Can you take us back, because this is something that fascinates me, and it also, I've noticed that when we share our journey, it opens up for others, that they can notice as well, to the moment that you first experienced it or discovered it, or was it always there, or was it spontaneous, or did you have someone activating you to that, or did it unfold gradually coming? You know, about your journey. We're gonna dive into the light language itself later on as well, but just about your journey, you know, of the light language.
Yeah, absolutely. I love to share my story, and I think you're right. It helps people to know that there are lots of different paths. There's lots of different ways. There's no wrong or right path. So I had my fifth child, my fifth pregnancy. It was like a surprise pregnancy, and it was a bit difficult for me to accept. Because it was I remember having a lot of anger towards that this was my situation now. Like, even though I knew that I had chosen this, and but I had a lot of anger, and like just accepting it was like hard for me. So I started like a daily dance practice. Back in 2019, I would, as soon as like I could, because I have quite difficult pregnancies in the beginning. I don't know why I've had 5 now, but I'm like quite sick the first 4 months. Like it's a big challenge. But then once I feel good, I start doing like all my practices again. And so I started dancing every day, and it was like dancing specifically for Kundalini activation. So there was a modality called Kundalini dance by Leola Antara, and I'd done it my priestess training as well. And she also spoke light language. So it was in this daily dance, dancing through the chakras, just dancing very intuitively. And the music journey was designed to go up from the root up to the crown, and working with the feminine movements of the body, of undulating the spine, and a lot of hip movements. So it was my happiest part, because, you know, I was pregnant. So sometimes it's not like what we want to do when we're pregnant. Like we want to lie down, or we want to eat lots of crisps. I don't know if I know you have a lot of children too, Kate. So maybe you remember there's like a whole range of experiences in just one day when you're pregnant. So it was a big thing for me to commit. Every day I'm going to dance for 1 hour, and work through my chakras, work through, you know, my emotions, and move like in this beautiful way. It's very sensual. I really activated my Kundalini energy a lot. And this pregnancy was a very like big initiation, like 9 months of awakenings. As also heart healing, because I was going through a breakup, another one, a different one. And so the light language, because light language is the soul's language, an expression of frequency. And so my soul frequency started to express through the dance. Instead of just kind of following the instructions, which were like undulating the spine and moving the hips, and I started to notice that my hands were moving a lot, like taking up a lot of space, and I was starting to make a lot of mudras, and that I was, you know, sometimes going into spontaneous positions, like, a pregnant person doesn't always do, like standing on one leg, and, you know, holding that position for like 1 minute. So I felt very liberated in my pregnant body. And, you know, especially by the end when I had a very large belly and I was just flying around the room, you know, and I realized that I was channeling temple dance from higher dimensions of me. Even though I didn't know this back in 2019, I had the higher perspective of this is what it is. It's not Niomi. Niomi has no idea how to channel a tantric temple dance. And then I've noticed the shift. It's not just in myself, like, oh, I feel amazing after this. I was feeling a bit tired before, now I feel very expanded, and I'm receiving a lot of information. But I also noticed the shift in the space around me. So if my other children were there, maybe they were a bit grumpy in the beginning, but after like an hour of watching me dancing or just being in the space, they had shifted too. So the frequency shift was apparent. So yeah, I started, it was like this remembering that we can channel in lots of different ways, and it causes a shift in vibration and frequency. And my teacher, she would speak light language when she was drumming. And so even though I didn't do that at that point, back in 2019, I didn't have a drum. I bought one a bit later. But I had that imprint of, okay, you can drum yourself into trance states of consciousness and maybe channel light language. And that's what I did later on, channeling light language songs, drumming. So my spontaneous way was through mudras, dancing. But to actually speak light language, so the language of light through my voice, I followed my guidance, which was really, really strong. To find a light language activator. I had no idea what this meant either. I was like, what is light language activator? Like, what is that? And where do I find one? So it took me a long time to find one back in 2019 and 2020. And I actually found an Irish woman who was doing it. So I did a course with her, a group course, and eventually started speaking. It took me a long time. I had a lot of blocks around expression. So that's how I had channeled it spontaneously, and then I got activated. And I recommend both paths, but specifically for activation of the voice, light language dialects through the higher self channel. I recommend going to an activator, me or anyone else that feels aligned.
I just find it fascinating. Thank you so much. I just love those images of you, you know, dancing and expressing yourself, and your 8th or 9th month, and all this beautiful frequency, being distributed to your children. It's gorgeous, really. Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much. Wanted to just deepen into these beautiful gifts, these beautiful spiritual gifts. You know, thinking about Kundalini awakening, light language, intuition, also in general. I wonder, have they ever been sort of misconstrued or not properly sort of understood by by those around you, whether that's friends or family, or and how you sort of navigate that? Because I think for a lot of us on the spiritual path, it's a big question, really, how much we choose to share or not, or you know, how we try and convey what's happening to people who are perhaps not, you know, as deeply along the spiritual path, or don't have the experience yet, you know. Just wondering if you could talk into
Thank you for this question, and it's such a valid fear that I think everyone has. You know, will I be accepted, or will I be outcast? It's like a deep core fear. Will I be rejected or ridiculed? So for me, it was really clear because I was, you know, speaking lots of light language, lots of different dialects, you know, from star family and my own galactic higher aspects. So yeah, for me, it was, you can't really tone it down. You can't be like, oh, I'm slightly alien. For me anyway, it's limiting my own expression, and therefore limiting my own frequency and my own access of wisdom and gifts. So I noticed this very early on, that yeah, even if I slightly altered my expression, and because when we activate our spoken light language, it's not just affecting the frequency of our light language, it's also how we speak and communicate in English or any other language you speak. It's a more authentic frequency. It's just your soul and your higher self are always speaking now, or trying to express, even if it's just in a vibration. So, and that can be very triggering for many people. So for me, I just was quite ruthless. It's like, okay, this person doesn't accept me, so they can't really be here with me. Being a little bit, yeah, exclusive in who I spend time with, because yeah, I think it has to be that way when we're on this path, and we realize that our energy is quite precious. It's our most precious currency, and we have to allow it to flow and express, especially if we're in the divine service path. If we're truly in divine service, we need to be in a state of overflow and authentic expression. And anyone else, I just see it then, I see it like a block, you know, and have to remove them. So I've been quite ruthless, and it does mean sometimes the path is a lonely path. Like there's maybe like not many people around right now, and I have to be okay with that. And blocks, those people have gone, so I can't blame anyone else. It's all on me. So for me, this was about. I strongly recommend this method. Yeah, and I think it's also to do with intention. So I share a lot on my Instagram account, Stella.wellness. I share like almost daily light language videos. You know, once I got over my own block about being seen, and I actually started sharing videos, not just to clients, but to anyone who was following me as a public account. So in 2022, I started sharing videos, and nearly every day I ever had one comment that has been remotely Yeah, you know, because it's my intention. My intention is that only those who wish to receive it would receive it and see it. So this is another thing about light languages. We start to become very consciously intentional about what we're sharing and who it's for. I'm not for everyone. And that's okay.
I love that. Thank you. And I love that sort of you know, that validation, really, that once you step into that authenticity, it's, you know, it's not it's not in the highest good of service to shrink yourself back. And actually it's, you can't do that. So really witnessing that, sort of stepping into that and unashamedly and very authentically being that.
Yeah, I
being
was
that
sharing
frequency.
this with Kate yesterday, because Kate offered me a unicorn healing session. And this is how we met on a unicorn healing course. And I've done this course 4 times because I love the unicorn so much. And on one of these courses, I met Kate. But I was sharing with Kate how, you know, angels, you know, we all have our own edge. You know, what is too much for me in this moment? And I was sharing with Kate, you know, oh, angels were fine, you know, talking about the 34 archangels and archaea, that's okay. That's acceptable. Talking about, you know, star races and dragons, that's okay, another step, but it's okay. But telling people that I channel unicorns, and this is actually my favorite frequency. I was so happy yesterday with Kate. It's like we were like a big emotional mess together of joy and gratitude, because it's the unicorn frequency is so pure. But I didn't tell anyone about this for a long time, because it was unicorns, and that's so I'm not saying that, like it may sound like, yeah, I'm very empowered in my truth and what I will accept, but we all have that fear. And for me, it was sharing about unicorns. And then I made.
So interesting. For me, the unicorns were actually the easiest one. I felt like it's the most approachable by everyone. So interesting.
But what's your edge, Kate? What was your edge? What was too much?
Yeah, I wonder. For me, the edge and like the message, really something that broke through was that need and longing for being seen for what I am, for who I am. And I really suffered from that for a really long time. And I remember doing one of the courses the other day, and I've mentioned that in a circle, and I was like crying, like that I don't feel seen. And somebody came to me, and now she's a very good friend of mine, but I hated her for saying that back then. And she came to me at the end of the day, she's like, you feel nobody see you because you can't see your light. And I was like, how dare you talk to me like that? But then it stuck with me, and it was like a seed that sprouted and sprouted. And I suppose it's always, what's within that's outside, and it's that choice and it's that decision that we make to ourselves, and of course along the way, and then it just reflects in the reality, right? So it's only a reflection of our own reality. If I can't see myself, then I sense that from people that they can't see me. If I don't accept something, or I have fear regarding, sharing about, let's say, unicorns or whatever it is, then it just reflects outside. So it's only really an internal and personal journey that then later on reflects. And very often it reflects also and is being given to us, by our beautiful karmic relationships. And this is something that always fascinates me, and it's an ongoing, never-ending journey, right? Doesn't matter if you're at the beginning or if you're God knows what. Always, we're humans, and it's always touching us. I'd like to ask you, Naomi, because this is something that we connect through as well, about the karmic cycles, breaking them, or maybe going through them, learning through them, right? How can we, for someone who's listening and maybe, is kind of new, or maybe not realize that they're going through something like that, how can we recognize that this might be a karmic cycle? Because and especially I've noticed, especially for us, we're holding space, and to see in others, no problem, okay, we can channel for others, but if it's touching us, suddenly we're blind, okay. Suddenly we can't see, suddenly we're biased, suddenly magic happens and we're starry-eyed, and so it's touching absolutely everyone. So how can we recognize that it's a karmic cycle? And how can we free ourselves? Would there be, like, how do you approach that, Naomi, in your own journey?
Yeah. Oh, there's karmic situationships or relationships. So yes. So to answer your question about how can we recognize it, I think I know, especially from this most recent one, that we're often not supposed to recognize it, because if we would recognize it, we would make the clever choice, the smart choice of not going into it. We have our gifts, after all. We can ask our womb, we can ask our yoni, we can ask our heart, we can pull a card and ring a sister, or 10 sisters. We can ask our pendulum, we can do some light language, but I think if it's a real karmic relationship or karmic cycle, there's a reason we have to complete it. We have to go through the whole thing, because there are lessons for it, and not just for us, but for the other person too. It's something we've agreed on a soul level, that we would do this to each other and help each other. That's what we're doing. That's why it's called a soul friend. Up there, we're really good friends, because we agreed to this to help each other out, to evolve and grow and ascend, get to know ourselves, maybe choose a higher path of love. And that's why it can be great for us to get some help. That's why we do this work, offering sessions, offering activation, because that's sometimes what is needed, to go to someone else and have someone hold space, preferably someone who doesn't know you or them, a neutral observer, where you don't feel like they're judging you or attacking you if they're telling you, this is not a good idea. And then sometimes none of those work because you're so, like you said, blinded, usually by love, where sometimes when we're very connected to the higher realms, like all three of us are, working with the angelic realm. So it's a part of us. It's not just something we do, once a day. We're always connected to the angelic realm. We're carrying that frequency and bringing it here into the human realm. That's the whole point of it, all the time. And so that means that part of us is always anchored in that realm, and that realm, the frequency is divine love, unconditional love. So when we're experiencing that here, it is blinding. We just see that, like you said, reflected in another. We see their highest potential, their love. We see their angel self, and we just see through the eyes of love, which is beautiful. That's the healing. That's the medicine we're bringing through. That's what maybe in this, for example, this karmic cycle that I just practiced and completed, learned and cleared, it was all about how much can I love. So it was really impossible to see clearly. I was really, really in it. And it was quite an abusive situation. So then what happens, and I know you have experienced this too, Kate, is really experiencing divine intervention, because at some point it gets too much they can see, oh, she's really actually very good at unconditional love. Okay, it's actually now she's not really like learning or practicing the human lessons, which is boundaries and self-respect and being okay with letting go. So then for me, what happened was I was in Cyprus, the land of Aphrodite, and I was really connecting with her when I was there, channeling her a lot, and in a higher dimension. So I was quite removed from the one where I was with this man, where it was like more of the human dimension, quite dense actually, painful. And so I could kind of see more clearly, but I was still too much in the love. So what she did was literally just took me out and it felt like she put me on a cloud somewhere very far away. I was telling you this story yesterday. I was like quite emotional because my human was so upset about it all. It's like, no, let me have my experience of unconditional love with this person, even though I knew it was painful and it needed to end. This is how attached we can be to something that is not for our highest good. But she just had to take me out of it. I slowly forgot about it, slowly saw the higher perspective, in divine neutrality. And then later on, I could make the choice to clear it, which I did. And I needed some karmic cycles are so imbalanced, like this one, that it needed not just like, usually I can clear it, light language gives you a really strong power of transmutation and alchemy. But I needed like help from a sister. She couldn't do it either. I even asked this man to do it because it's also a powerful light language channel. I activated his light language. He couldn't do it. And so it took like a very powerful shamanic brother. He had to go deep into the shadow to clear it. So it was like, I'm going to share the karmic cycle imbalance, and it was karmic debt. So over many, many, many incarnations, me and this soul friend / terrible man. I'm joking. Nobody's terrible. They're just terrible in December. And I kept practicing unconditional love in each incarnation that we had together, because that was what my soul wanted to do. And this soul had said, I'm going to help you with that, but through more of the shadow, because that was his path. And so he would, in each incarnation, he would trigger me with this pattern I mentioned at the beginning when we talked about the dark night of the soul. And the worst one, that's why I talked about this most recent one, was wanting to make me feel and experience this human emotion, experience frequency of jealousy. And so, as you can realize, every incarnation I'm practicing unconditional love, and he is practicing making someone jealous. It's not great for his karmic debt. And so it manifested in that he owed me so much. It felt in this situation, this connection, whatever he did, it wasn't enough. Like, especially around things like money, being generous, and sharing our gifts. So I cleared it. My friend cleared it. My brother cleared it. And together it was done. And then we have to, it's our human choice if we stick to the decision and if we choose love and gratitude to the divine for the lessons. So I hope that answered the question. It's not easy. And we have to
and it's not easy because we work on energetic point of view, but then the whole biochemistry of the brain comes in, the whole psychology comes over in. So I love that you mentioned, we have our brothers and sisters, and always seeking that support and being aware of that is one. and then working through it. It's not from one day to another. It's always those breadcrumbs that they're guiding us. And I can say very similar things. I suppose that's why we're connected in that. For me, some of the, connections takes years, and then it all makes sense. We're being given the pieces of the puzzle to create a whole. And then again, it's a gift. It's a soul friend that gives us that experience. And years ago I heard something that anytime I mention that, people get very not always agreeing with that, but from the really, really high perspective, those that give us those hard experiences, that's like really, really big love, because they get that karma. It's not very good for them from the higher perspective. But how much a soul needs to love a soul to give that experience. So still having that awareness, yet still coming back and not sugarcoating that, because there's always two sides of the spectrum that we can get ourselves trapped in, and I've noticed in our environment we can very easily get trapped into, because we look at another human being from that higher perspective, but still, we're humans, we experience and we give those experiences, still having that responsibility of our actions, responsibility for our choices. And I'm always, we all experience trauma, right? We've all, but still I had a choice not to go that path, and we always have that choice. So still, on one hand, yes, still remembering the human part, and then from the soul, and then merging it together. So
yeah, I love this, because you shared this with me yesterday and it was so beautiful. It was like, Niomi, you have trauma too, but you don't choose to manipulate or control people. And that's, I think, the choice. We have the choice whether we want to harmonize and heal our own wounds, which we all have, and not project them onto another, even if it is a karmic situation. And I know this now, like I know that sometimes we have to let things unfold, and we are doing some actions that are not great. But I learned this from my mother, because my mother is it's a karmic relationship, and I know we often have a karmic relationship with either a parent or a child. And for me, it was with both of my parents. So I learned this very young, that because my mum is a Buddhist nun, so she's very spiritual, and I can connect. She meditates a lot, and I can connect with her in that plane, that dimension, that very high realms. So I know that in the higher realms, we are very good soul friends. Again, this word, I think it's so important, because it takes away the labels. She's not my mother, I'm not the daughter, he's not my lover, and we're soul friends. And we agreed on some of these lessons up there. And like you said, it's a big love. So my mum, she's done some real lessons. Nothing compared to this man, and it's over a long time, a whole childhood. But it was, and she's incurred a lot of karmic debt, but it's out of the soul love. And yeah, in the human experience, she had the choice. In each moment, we always have that choice with the action. But I think the real difference, like you said, with the karmic cycle, it's actually not that long. I've noticed it's about 6 months, a karmic cycle. Would you agree? Thank goodness. It actually sounds like quite a long time. 6 months of pain and making quite embarrassing mistakes, and then feeling like a fool. And other people are like, what is she doing? Because we had this too, we had this 6 months while I was in that situation where you didn't really want to talk to me, because you were like, what is she doing? And that can happen. But luckily it's just 6 months. Hopefully.
It's just a blink of an eye in the age of the soul, so no worries.
Oh, so much in there. I feel like really this whole topic is it's so vast, isn't it?
We'll do
we
part
could
two,
talk
Kirsty.
literally for
We'll do
hours.
a part two episode.
Yes, please come back and talk about karmic relationships, because yeah, that's and so well. And yeah, I just wanted to add that I don't know whether you agree, but it seems that we're doing, do you feel like we're doing a lot of clearing in this lifetime of karma, clearing karmic relationships, clearing our karma quickly? You mentioned 6 months. Do you think that we're in this incarnation where we're doing that? It just sprang to mind as you were talking.
Absolutely. And that's why I'm so passionate about activating people's light language, spoken light language, because it's a tool that can clear things quite fast. And we talked about the karmic relationships and cycles, but there's a lot of other things, even just like small limiting beliefs that we have and patterns that we do in our everyday life, and for our children as well. So I feel like light language is so powerful for just shifting everyday limiting beliefs and limitations and pain, and transmuting it, alchemizing it into something of a higher frequency, while still maintaining the lesson. And so, yes, I think because of this ascension cycle that we're all in, we're doing a lot of spiritual work quite fast. We don't have to sit and meditate every day for an hour. We can if we want to, and it's a great practice especially if you're working with Kundalini energy. Like, it's great to have the balance. But yeah, we're definitely doing so much clearing now, and it's a lot in our human relationships. So that's why it's important to not choose that easy path of isolation and being just in meditation, or just being in my nice cozy house, or just being with my best friend who we have a great time, but actually being brave and meeting new people and connecting deeper with and talking to strangers and people who are a little bit different. Like, I've had a really amazing few months. Like, one of the best gifts that came from this karmic cycle was I mentioned this brother who's giving me a lot of Kundalini activations, and he is Russian, and I've never really spent much time with someone from Russia, and it's very uncomfortable. But because I've now had this new courage from this other man, the karmic cycle, what comes from the karmic cycle is courage. You feel like, wow, I'm new, I'm shiny, something different has been ignited and activated. And so I moved into something new, like a co-creation, a spiritual mission with this man. And it's because I had this new courage to meet him. I would never have done it before. It's uncomfortable, like I said.
I love that. Oh, that's beautiful. So you're talking about the gifts at the end of the the initiations, really, and the clearing, and
yeah, we have to focus on the gifts. Otherwise it's like really
absolutely
like, what was the good thing?
Yes.
And that keeps us going, that motivates us, because there are lots of gifts. We receive so much.
What keeps us going? The gifts, stepping out, and being with others. Because I feel like, concluding to the end of our conversation, there's like few key main messages that are coming through Naomi, and that I would like to, if you would like to leave our listeners with. So we have focusing on the gifts and focusing on what it brings. Is there any other message you would like to leave? Because you navigate through your gifts, you're doing that daily, absolutely daily, probably through the sleep as well. So it's like probably 24 hours a day service you provide, which is brilliant, very efficient. But I meet along the path, many that are still lost, they're still looking for hope, that they don't have tools. That's one thing. So they can get tools with you or with myself or Kirsty or whoever they look for. But what would be the message you would like to leave those that maybe they seek them, they still didn't fully found themselves here yet, or they fully didn't connect with their essence fully yet, and they can't sense it, and they're still looking for hope or for an encouragement. And you mentioned courage. as well, which I love as well. Is there any other message you would like to leave our listeners with today to, you know, encourage them?
Yeah, I would say that the biggest gift we can give to ourselves is to really get to know ourselves. And part of getting to know myself is the human self and all of that comes with that, this human Niomi, like, and the love and acceptance that I can have for myself. But the gifts come from when I've gone really deep and gotten to know my soul, because my soul has so much wisdom, and so does your soul. And the higher aspects of me that are connected in higher dimensions, and your higher aspects that are connected in higher dimensions are available for us. They're available for me in every moment. I just have to access and ask, just like asking, you know, the angels. And one of the best ways is being able to speak light language. And I go on and on and on about this because I tried so many different modalities. And this is the one that was the most empowering. So once I could speak light language, I could speak directly to my higher aspects, loads of different ones. I speak about 14 different dialects, and that doesn't mean I only have 14 different higher aspects. It's just the ones that I can access right now, like through light language. And it means that in any moment I can choose to call that dimension, that frequency, that being, that version of me. And I have a lot of support, and not just from them, but all my family from that dimension, from that realm. So what happens is we start to feel and know that we are so supported, and that you are so supported, not just by 34 archangels and archaea, but by you. Like, you have so much power, divine power and wisdom. So that's my biggest takeaway, is that, you know, you to know this, that you're not just Kate, not just Kirsty or your spiritual team. There's a huge multidimensional codex available.
That is beautiful. What a beautiful vision to leave our listeners with. Oh, thank you, Naomi. I feel there's so much more. We've just literally scratched the surface of all the soul wisdom and the beauty that you bring. So, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for your really, really challenging questions. They were hard and they were beautiful. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for today, Naomi. I'm really, really grateful finally got a hold of you. And I hope you're going to join us again, because I feel like we've just scratched the surface and there's so much more always. And as we evolve and as everything comes through, yeah, thank you so much for today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And before we completely close, could you just share, I know we're going to put a lot of information in the show notes, but could you share just verbally how people can best connect with you if they want a session with you now, Naomi? What's the best way to connect with you, please, or the best ways?
Yeah, I'm over on Instagram, so my handle is @stella.wellness, and you can send me a message, and you can click on all my links for my online Kundalini activations, and also to book if you feel like you want to speak light language. This is something that is a strong yes from your higher self. You can book my next multidimensional light language activator training, where I activate your light language and also show you how to use it. So there's lots of different ways, and I also have my webpage, NaomiStellaRose.com. So yeah, I look forward to being in service.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a fantastic
day. Have a good day, everyone.
Beautiful day. We'll see you soon.